How to escape the 9 to 5 system. So does this day resonate with you? You wake up, you have a diary full of calls, calls that you may not even want to be on, calls that you maybe don't even care about. You're having conversations with your boss or your team about quarterly sales targets, about customer service scores, about project deadlines, and you're thinking to yourself, how on earth did I ever get here? I didn't study this at university. I didn't go to school studying this subject, but somehow I have fallen into working in a bank, in a big corporate company, in a charity, in an education system, and I don't know how to escape it. But I know that this isn't what I want to do. Acronyms such as KPIs, WHIP, ROI becomes second nature to you, as if it's a language that you learned when you were a child. And it's not. This is the brainwashing or working in a big corporate or institution for many, many years makes you acutely aware to these kinds of conversations, acronyms, and phone calls. And I must admit, guys, this was me. 8 years ago, I worked in Britain's largest bank based in London. I worked in a job which I enjoyed, and I enjoyed working with the people in my team, but I always knew that I had a burning desire to run my own company and to be totally free of the corporate system and the rat race. I always knew that I wanted to not have the rigidity of a 9 to 5 and have complete freedom over where I am, who I do business with, and what I do my business and time in. So let's dive a little bit deeper into my situation when I was working for a corporate, and I'm sure you can resonate with me. I was living in London. I was living in a place called Balham in the south of London, and every day I would have to physically put my suit and tie on and commute into work. I was going down underground onto the Northern Line into sometimes a really sweaty, busy, crowded tube to commute 30 minutes into London and then to have to walk into the offices that I worked in every day. These offices were based just next to the Bank of England, and I guess there was probably about 1,000 people, maybe more, who was based in the office. And I always found it really strange that every day people would leave their homes and commute all to this one location where they all had to basically carry out their job, where they felt like they were part of a system, felt like they were part of a rat race, and it never quite felt necessary and real to me. I've always been a big believer of freedom. I've always been a big believer of doing what you love. And I just find it really strange how the 9 to 5 system is set up in a way that you have to operate within the confines that a big corporate company tells you to do. Now, corporate companies are definitely getting better. 10 years ago, it certainly didn't have the work-life balance that I'm seeing people have now. But at the same time, until you are an entrepreneur and until you are your own boss, you will never really fully understand and appreciate what it is like to have complete and total freedom over your diary. Now, I always knew that I needed to have some kind of exit plan. I always knew that I had a burning desire in the pit of my stomach telling me that I wasn't set up and I didn't have the right genetic makeup to be working in a 9 to 5 corporate position. That being said, I worked in a corporate job, or I worked for Britain's largest bank for 8 years. So it took me 8 years of being able to build my business up outside of work and finally get to the stage where I could quit and pursue my business dreams, which I'm still doing now and loving every single second of it. And it has never felt like a job a day in its life, but it took me 8 years to be able to get to that situation. So it just shows, guys, that this does take time. I ended up setting up my own British independent luxury watch company, and I set it up on the side or outside of work. So in the hours in the morning or when I would get home from work, I would be putting every single possible piece of my physical, mental, financial resources behind setting up and creating my own company. And I ended up doing it. 8 years later, I was able to hand my notice in, quit my job. And because I spent so long actually in the job, it gave me enough time to feel really comfortable that I was doing the right thing. It gave me enough time to realize that I had enough in personal savings, that my business was paying me the same amount of money that my job was doing. And it just made that transition really, really easy. So there are certain steps that I went through and that I will share with you now, which I believe will really help you to be able to quit or escape the 9 to 5. So if you want to take notes from here, what I would say is the first most important point is keep your day job. I'm not the type of person who's going to preach for you just to quit your job, to get a loan out, and to just go all or nothing with no plan B on trying to set up the company of your dreams. That's just going to add added stress to your life, added stress to your partner, added stress to your family, added stress to your financial situation. Why would you want to do that? So what I would highly recommend is that you keep your job, but you start to build your business outside of work. You wake up earlier, you set the alarm, you attack your job in the mornings, and as soon as you get home after work, you attack it in the evenings as well. To give you an idea, I used to set my alarm at between 5:30 and 6 a.m. I would spend the first 2 hours of my morning attacking my business, making sure that I had a list of tasks that I needed to do every day, and I would tick off the most important ones to begin with. When I got into work, I would do an awesome job. I was very, very good at my job. That's another point. Make sure that you don't let your head drop in your job. At the end of the day, that is what's paying your salary and allowing you to live and allowing you to save your money to create your business. So don't ever take that for granted. And when I came home, I would then attack my job again after the gym between the hours of 7 and normally 11 to midnight. I did that for about an 18 to 24 month period, and I proved to myself and to my loved ones that this was something that I really wanted to do and really wanted to have a laser focus on over that 18 to 24 month period. So point number 1, keep your day job. Point number 2, aim to save at least 6 to 12 months of your salary as emergency funds. Now, I know that might sound difficult, but guys, if you are truly serious about setting up your company, one of the biggest points that I preach is to try and avoid unnecessary debts at every single turn. You can do this by saving a percentage of your salary each month until you get to the stage where you have at least 6 to 12 months, and I say at least 6 to 12 months emergency funds, which is the equivalent of 6 to 12 months of your monthly salary. I would suggest that you should save anywhere between 25 to 40% of your monthly salary. Now, you might be thinking, Jonny, that is great in practice, but I can't manage that. Well, fine, you can drop it and you can save a little bit less, but you have to be saving every single month, because without cash, you're going to have absolutely no opportunity to be able to create your company without knocking on the door of a bank and taking on unnecessary debts, which is what I would absolutely suggest that you avoid. I saved up 12 months of my salary. That then allowed us to be able to take that money and cover the cost of designers, cover the cost of setting up a new website, cover the cost of traveling over to Switzerland to find new suppliers. It allowed us to be able to comfortably not really stress and have sufficient funds in the business current account to be able to create my British independent luxury watch company. The next thing I would say is you should aim to get your business producing the same amount of income, or if not more, than your monthly salary before you even consider quitting. Now, so many people will get their first sale or their first 10 sales or their first 100 sales or their first 1,000 sales and think, yeah, you know what, now it's time for me to quit. Well, I would look more at the numbers behind it. I always thought that if I earned half of my salary in the bank, that would be enough for me to go, yeah, it's time for me to hand my notice in. In reality, even when I was earning the same amount of money in the bank, I didn't quit. Even when the income surpassed the amount of money that I was earning in the bank, I was still hesitant to quit because I wanted to have complete certainty in my mind that it was going to be a simple transition from my corporate job into the 9 to 5. And I would absolutely highly recommend that you do something of similar ilk, because it just means that you take all of the stresses off. It's already stressful enough to be an entrepreneur. You want to make sure that you have tried and tested and proven infrastructure and branding and websites and product and sales every year consistently to know that you are doing the right thing. And I can honestly say that I've never looked back and thought I made the wrong decision, but that's because I put 8 years of hard work in before even considering handing my notice in. So that's something which I would highly suggest and recommend for you guys. The next thing is to create a rigid schedule. Every morning I used to have a very strict, rigid schedule of waking up each morning, of a healthy morning routine, of a healthy diet plan, of exactly how I would apply myself to be able to create the business of my dreams in that 2-hour period in the morning. How could I get into work as fast as possible? How could I merge my fitness and my exercise into my daily routine? So I would actually run into work, which was like 10 kilometers, because I knew then that it would give me more time to be able to work harder when I got to my desk. And then by the time I could get back home, I didn't have to always go to the gym after work because I'd already put the miles in to be able to get into work or run into work. And it gives me more time to be more productive when I get home and work on my business. So make sure that you have a really rigid and structured routine, and make sure you start saying no. You need to start becoming a no man and a no woman. You will keep getting invited to social situations, but there's going to be a period, guys, of maybe 12, 18, 24 months where you just have to say no, 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 no. Get your head down, put your blinkers on, and just hibernate and focus on the business, okay? And my final point is you need to start reading books and you need to start listening to podcasts. Now, podcasts that I would recommend are The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. Yes, it is a very popular podcast, and the reason it's so popular is because he gets incredible guests on. And I take a lot of inspiration from hearing other people's success stories and failures, and I think you can too. So that's a great podcast to listen to. Then there's also a YouTube channel by Chris Williamson called Modern Wisdom. That gives you all of the psychology and mental aspects of how you can build a really strong bulletproof mentality to be able to attack your business on a daily basis. And if you haven't read any business books and you're a real beginner, I would highly recommend the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This is a book that I read every year to be able to put myself into the right frame of mind. Napoleon Hill basically interviewed some of the biggest business leaders in the world, people such as Henry Ford. And you can just take so much knowledge from these individuals, and it just puts you onto that right kind of positive, optimistic mindset to be able to attack your business. And the final book that I would highly recommend that you read before even considering going onto your business journey is a book called The Psychology of Money.